like to thank you very, very much for being here. And my partner Sky and I were extremely passionate about what it is that we do. And we're very fortunate in the sense that it's not a job to us, even though it is our job, but it's not a job because we sincerely love doing what we love to do. And to be put in a position to help other people emotionally and spiritually, sometimes physically, there's no other blessing that I could imagine that could be greater than that, you know, to be put in a position. Now, I have taught people how to do what we do, and it is teachable because I was taught, and I found out on a fluke, and I got something in the junk mail when I was 27 years old. And I looked at it, and it said, how would you like to develop your psychic ability, intuitiveness, come to this one seminar at the Edgar Casey Foundation at this, for this one weekend. And that one weekend I did go. My wife at the time wasn't interested. She goes, no, you could go, I don't give a crap about that. Now, I wasn't looking at this like it was like the answer to my prayers. I just looked at it like, wow, this is really cool. I didn't know you could learn how to do this. And so I did it, not realizing I had a natural gift for it. And then I started reading for friends and family just for the fun of it.
Do you think that was your angels to do that?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it might have been could have been my angels.
Now?
Whereas I have, Sky's my partner. Now she was born with it, and she's had it since she was like 6 years old, or until she realized it. Whereas for myself, it was something that was acquired. And the funny thing is, being that my real natural name is Arthur, my favorite character on TV was Uncle Arthur from Bewitched. And he was funny and he had the gift. And I remember watching him all the time because he was always fun and funny to watch, and especially with Hollywood Squares. So I had this personal connection with him. And then to find out that this is, people are able to learn this. Now, when I went for readings before, when I didn't think I had spit, all right, and people would say to me, Art, you have the gift too. I go, yeah, right. Just tell me, who am I going to be with? Is my business going to be successful? Blah, 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 blah. That's all I wanted to know. Don't tell me that I have the gift, because I didn't even care at that point, because I couldn't even see tomorrow. All right, I was always good with people, but I didn't have that natural ability. And I realized that when I started going to seminars, I would probably say the person who inspired me the most was Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. He's a gentleman who literally in meditation had a conversation with God, and I highly recommend this book. Now mind you, I have no connection monetarily connected to the book. All right, I do know him and his ex-wife personally, and my wife at that time, we happened to be in Barnes & Noble and say, hey, Art, what do you think about this book? I said, Conversations with God. Again, I was semi-spiritual at that point because I already went to the seminar, but it really didn't. I said, all right, well, that looks interesting. And I started reading one page after another page while I'm at Barnes & Noble, and then all of a sudden I said, oh my God. Now this is a book where this gentleman has a talk with God, and he asked about, is there a heaven? Is there a hell? What about relationships? What about my relationship with my kids? What about my partnership? How do you feel about divorce? How do you feel about marriage? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about... He was asking every single question you could possibly imagine. This guy was singing to my heart. I said, oh my God. Now mind you, I am not a deep reader, all right? I'm not a scholastic person. And I tell people, I went to the University of Maryland for 2 years, but that was just to visit my friends. And it's the truth, And the funny thing is, growing up, I always wanted to become a therapist. But, as I was in school, it's like, I'm a personal person. To me, it was a social breathing ground. That's what school was. I barely got by, And so what happened was I wanted to become a therapist, and I said, you know what? I don't have patience for learning. I didn't have the money for school. I just, but yet I just pictured myself talking to people and counseling people, and I didn't know how this was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, I get this little junk mail piece of postcard in the mail, and it said, how would you like to develop your psychic ability, intuitiveness? The funny thing is, now I've been doing this for 27 years, and Sky, you've been doing this, what, for 54 years now?
Yeah.
And so now I literally have therapists and other psychiatrists who come see me for answers. And we also, not that we are doctors per se, although I do call myself a psychic therapist because that's what other friends and clients have called me, psychic therapist. But we get answers from the other side, and there's no prep work. I had no clue exactly what I was going to say. All I know was the topic. But I had nothing prepared because like I do my readings, like Sky does her readings, everything happens in the moment. It's exactly like the movie Ghost. There's a Patrick Swayze talking to us. We are Whoopi Goldberg. And we just deliver the message. And a lot of times we don't even understand why we say what we say. And you might not understand it in the moment. But later on, 2 and 2 usually equals up. Now also, as a psychic, all right, when we make predictions, there are certain things that are written in stone that it's going to happen come hell to high water. And then there are other things that are up to probabilities. There are strong probabilities because there's a certain amount of situations and circumstances that have to happen before whatever it is that you're looking for to happen. You know, so a lot of times people come to us and there's like a spider web in the road. And what I do see, and I'm sure the same thing for Sky, if you go here, this is what's going to happen. And if you go there, this is what's going to happen. If you go here, this is what's going to happen. And people, which way am I going to go? What am I going to do? Well, that's your free will. You're the one that's going to decide. I just told you what to expect according to my visions. The beautiful thing is, even though people tell me, Artie, you were right about this, you were right about that, it was like school. If I didn't get the answers from somebody else, I wasn't passing. And the only reason why we know what we know, it's not because we personally know, no, it's because the answers were fed to us. Although my license plate does say, I just know. And the funny thing is, I got pulled over by a policeman a couple of weeks ago. A couple of months ago. He must have been bored because he said my car was going over to the other side. I didn't drink. I was wide awake. I knew he was just blowing smoke up my butt. But I wasn't challenging him because he could still give you a ticket, you know? And I'm not stupid, you know? I'm not stupid. Now, the funny thing is, he says, all right, where are you coming from? What are you doing? What's going on? I said, well, listen. I said, I didn't do any drinking. I said, I just came from a party. I said, I'm a professional psychic. And I said, I've helped out policemen, you know, and I'm just talking a little bit about myself without trying to sell myself. It's just giving a little information. So I gave him my card. He goes, Artie Hoffman? He goes, is your place in Woodbridge? I go, yeah. Because where I live and what my license plate says, what my license says 2 different things. He goes, you did a reading for my aunt 3 years ago to this day. And you connected with her father who passed away on this day. And she doesn't stop talking about you during every single holiday. I said, well, at least you know I'm telling you the truth. You know? So the funny thing is that he calls me up an hour and a half later and he goes, Artie, yeah, this is probably the weirdest call you ever got. He goes, but I'm the police officer that pulled you over. He goes, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like a reading. And so I did do a reading for him, you know, and it was really cool. Now, mind you, when people have crossed over on the other side, all their pains go away. A lot of people are very worried about their loved ones when they pass away, whether it be emotional, whether it be physical, whatever it is. A lot of people assume that, oh my God, I feel so bad for them. You feeling bad for your loved ones who have passed away is equivalent to you worrying about them while they're sitting on the beach of Hawaii having an iced tea in the sun. Only it's even 10 times better than that. We're the ones that are stuck with the problems. We're the ones that are mourning. We're the ones that don't have them anymore, so the sorrow comes from missing them. And that's perfectly normal, to miss somebody who you care about so much. But on the other side, when you do talk to them, I 100% promise you, they do hear you. And you're allowed to ask, please send me a sign. We're always asking for signs. Now, even when somebody does give you a sign, sometimes you might be, say, at a Home Depot or at Kmart or at a public place, and all of a sudden you hear their name being called out of the blue. That's a sign. All of a sudden you look at a license plate and you'll see their birthday. That's a sign. A lot of times you might see pennies on the ground, or they're connected with birds. That's a sign. I paused for a moment only because I just got a little emotional because I'm okay. You know, my mom passed away about 1.5 years ago, and I know she's always with me. And I usually don't, get that upset because I know she's in a very good place. Now, it's still hard for us, even though we're very spiritual. We still miss our loved ones very much. And I said to my mother this one particular morning, and she does send me a lot of signs, because a lot of times I'll look at the clock, and when I look at the clock, it's her birthday, 12/21. And so I was on my way going to my home office, and I said, Ma, send me a sign. Just, it was just casual. I wasn't emotional. I said, Ma, send me a sign. Kid you not, an 18-wheeler goes by. There's no other advertisement on it. It says 12/21. That's her birthday. I'm saying to myself, why would anybody, other than for myself, have 12/21? Like there was nothing else on it, just this big 12/21. And I just said, thanks, Mom. Thank you, Mom. And it's really beautiful that I want you to understand that when you talk to them, they really hear you. Now, what I tell a lot of people so that you could emotionally feel really good about still having this relationship with them. You could still have a relationship with your loved ones who have crossed over, and this is what I tell people. Start emailing them. You could address it to yourself, but email them, because as you're writing to them, you could talk about your day or how much I miss you or do you remember when. But as you're writing this letter, it's like you're writing to them as if, maybe they're in a different state, like when we write to our loved ones. And it's really, really cool. It's really cool because as you are writing it, you're going to start imagining as if they're talking to you. Or what would they say? The funny thing is, it's not your imagination. That's them really communicating to you. And you could say, hey, Mom, what should I do? Or, hey, son, how are you doing? Or do you remember this? Or do you remember that? Or and you're going to start getting messages. And you're going to start getting messages in your dreams also. The funny thing is, I know there's a lot of people who get future messages within their dreams. That's not me. That's just not me. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what it's like for us to be able to read other people. And this is beautiful because you're really going to experience in this moment what it's like or how it's like for us. Because, Scott, people ask you, what's it like for you, when you go, like, how do you see things? And so right now, if you could just picture what your bedroom or bathroom or kitchen looks like, if you could have that visual of your living room right now, that image that you have right now, that's how we see. That's exactly how we see. If you could hear the sound of your loved one's voice, whether it be your best friend who's not here, I don't mean past, but just personally. your parents, one of your parents, you can hear their voice in your head. You know what their voice sounds like. We hear voices in our head. And I'm not going schizophrenic. I'm not going schizophrenic. You know, the funny thing is, they say, if you talk to God, it's called prayer. If God talks to you, it's schizophrenia. He's way out there. Artie's always been the black sheep. He is somewhere out there. Come on down, let's pull him back down. Now, a lot of times I'll hear a song in my head, randomly. Maybe a song I haven't heard in many years. Whatever that song's about in my head, it's about you. Whatever that song is, or it might be, that's the song that they always sang to me, or that was their favorite song, or, you know. Sometimes there's a name within that song, and it happens to be that person. Again, if you see a video in your head of what it was like for you as you woke up this morning, and you're preparing to come here, you have that little video in your head and driving over here, and, oh, we got to get there, and, you know, all this. That's how we see in video. Sometimes it's black and white, the messages, and sometimes it turns out to be like in a Rubik's Cube. We got to like try to figure out the messages. But Sky and I, when we do readings, everyone gets a recording, because there's no way you're going to remember everything that we say to you. Because we know that most of you don't have a great memory, and neither do we. You'll remember bits and pieces. That's it. You remember bits and pieces. But there's been many a times where people have called me up 6 months, a year later, 2 years later. They re-listened to the recording that I gave to them. And the common phrase that I hear is, Artie, what you said to me made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. But when I re-listened to it today, everything you said made sense. And you gave dates and times of what was to be, and things happened. Now, it's not always easy for us to be able to explain things to you black and white, because a lot of times things come in messages or images, metaphorically. And I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me during this one reading. I was doing a party, all right, being that my name is Artie, I call them Artie Parties. But I was doing this party, and this one lady sat down, and I knew that she lost a loved one. She had that look on her face like she was like really agitated. And so she sits down. It wasn't like, oh, hey, how you doing? She was like, you know, she had that Dorothy Hamill haircut look. She had that business look. And she's like, And I'm giving her information. Now, mind you, at the beginning, when I used to start reading people, that used to upset me because I want to please everybody. You know, I want everyone to be happy with the information. So I go, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Huh? And I'd be looking for a confirmation. And if they said yes, I'm like inside, go, this is great, you know, because I wasn't used to making that kind of money when I first started reading. I said, well, this is fantastic. Now, what they said, no. In my mind, I'm looking at you, and I'm saying, God, I really suck at this. I feel so bad for taking your money right now. I'm thinking this while I'm reading you when I first started. But then what happened was, days, weeks, and many months later, people were emailing me and calling me, saying, hey, Artie, this came true. This is what happened. My mother confirmed this, my mother confirmed that. So here I am right back to the party that I was telling you about. So I'm reading for this one girl, and I'm giving her information. At the end of the reading, you know, she said to me, she goes, Art, she goes, you know, because now, personally, usually when I read people, I usually look at a picture. I don't always need a picture, but at this time, I needed a picture of your loved one, whoever you wanted to communicate to. Sky doesn't need a picture. She's just naturally excellent. With me, I need a picture as a crutch, but many spirits, for some reason, when I do shows, I really don't always need pictures. So I'm looking at her mother's picture. Oh, and she said to me, she goes, some of the things you told me, you were spot on, you were specific, and other things were very general, it could be with anybody, but you still haven't told me anything that's actually convincing me that you're talking to my mother. And I said, well, I can only share with you what they share with me. I said, I don't make it up. Actually, sometimes I would think I would make it up. I do. I feel like a little schoolboy just telling little white lies. Honest, this is what's going to happen. And then after the show, I'd say, oh, please, God, make something happen. I don't want to just say things just to say things, but a lot of times I felt like that. But then a lot of things do happen. So I'm looking at her mother's picture, and I said, all right, well, let me look. Well, I said, no, let me look at your mother's picture one more time. So I looked at it, and I said, your mom is showing me cows. She goes, what do you want me to do with that? I said, I don't know, your mom's showing me cows. So in my mind, I started seeing all the cows get up, and they were all mooing. So I said to her, I said, I don't know why I'm doing this, but moo. And then all of a sudden, she broke down in tears crying. And she points to her mother's picture, and she goes, that's her name. I go, what are you talking about? Her name's Muriel, but everyone called her Moo. And I said, oh, thank God. The stress level was sky high that day for me, because those were the days I was struggling. So what happened was, within that same party, when I'm struggling with all this, I was doing a reading for this one gentleman, handsome gentleman, very well dressed. He's like, I could tell, like, he's sitting there like, all right, I'm here, I'm accommodating you, like he's doing me a favor. Let's see what you got. Everybody else thinks you're okay. Let me just see what you got. He's giving me one of those attitudes. And I said, I'm seeing a cat around you. Is there a cat around you? No cat. I go, no, there's going to be a cat. He says, Art, he just stopped me. I never owned a cat. I don't like cats. I don't ever anticipate owning a cat. So I don't know why you even came up with that. So I said to him, let me be a little more specific. Not only do I see you owning a cat, because listen, I don't look for your approval. At this point, because of all my experiences, I don't look for anyone's approval. I just tell you my visions. I'm telling you my feelings. Whether you agree with it or not at the moment makes no difference to me. We just express our feelings in the moment, and in the moment, that's our truth. So I said to him, I see a copper-looking cat. That's the color. It's a copper-looking cat. I said, and the cat's name is Penny. That's the cat that I see you being with. Now, the lady having the party calls me up 2 months later and said, hey, Artie, do you remember reading for my boss, Kevin? I said, well, vaguely, because I don't remember what I say to people. So if I'm reading for you and you talk to me the next day and say, hey, Artie, remember when you said this and that? No. Because in the moment, I'm with you only in the moment. After you leave, that's my protection. That's my protection. I can't be emotionally attached to every single person I read. Otherwise, my hair would turn curly and gray. It's actually natural. So this is my form of protection, that my memory is literally blocked so that I can give you all the love and all the information in the moment. And then once you part from me, that's up to you and your karma with God and your angels. So a couple months later, the person having the party said to me, hey, Art, do you remember reading for my boss, Kevin? I said, yeah. She says, you're not going to believe this. I go, what's that? His best friend invited him over. He was moving out of his place. He had to move into a new place. In his new place, he's moving into a townhouse or association or a condo association. He says they don't allow pets, and he has 2 cats. While he was having dinner with his friend, this one cat kept on coming up to him and curling around him. The cat's name was Penny.
Yeah, of course.
He ended up taking Penny home with him that night. Needless to say, him and his wife had a party with me, and says, well, there's your prediction, there's your Penny right there. And it was like just really cool. But when I tell you time and time and time again, now the funny thing is, a lot of people might ask Sky and myself, are there, do you ever give any numbers, lottery numbers, winning situations? Now mind you, in my life I have given over 10 winning stock tips. all 10 of them scored at least 100%. Now, mind you, it has to come in the moment. The very first time I was ever on the radio, I was on Cat Country 107.3 out of Atlantic City. First time I was ever on the radio, let me tell you something, I was scared because now there are thousands of people listening to me at the same time. The microphone's in front of my face, and he was interviewing me. We go for a commercial break. And, you know, Joe's all excited. He's very skeptical, raised Irish Catholic. He told me, he says he doesn't believe in this crap, his exact words. And so anyway, I said, okay, no problem, no problem. So before we started having people to call in, I just said a little prayer, and I just said, God, I said, I really don't know what to say. You're going to have to help me on this. Please help me. Help me! And so all of a sudden, after my little prayer, so he says, all right, Artie, this is, you know, we're with Joe Kelly. I got my psychic friend, Artie Hoffman. And, oh, it's funny. So on my way going to the radio station, because I traveled to the station, we're listening to the radio and see if Joe's going to mention the fact that I'm going to be on, because I had my manager with me at the time. And she just goes, put it on, let's see if he's talking about it. So Joe Kelly goes, oh, we're going to have our psychic medium friend, Artie Hoffman. He claims he could talk to dead people. Let's just see if it's right. Now, the beautiful thing is, they're really, I mean, we consider them dead only because they are physically not with us. The reality is, we never, ever die. Your loved ones that you think have passed away, that's all they did. They passed on to another dimension. And I'm going to give you a perfect scenario. Your physical body right now, our physical body, and this is something that I learned from Neil Donald Walsh, and then I've learned to understand later on through meditation. But this wonderful physical body, it's not really who we are. Our soul is who we are. Our soul gives us the ability to think with our mind. Our soul gives us the ability to feel and to see. Our soul uses this body to express itself. But once this body stops existing, once the body has retired, the soul lifts up out of the body and it takes on another energy form. But I promise you, with all my heart and soul, it's the truth, that your loved ones who you think who have died, they're really not dead. They are alive as much as you and I, only they're just not in their physical body. Now, I can prove to you that we are not of our physical body. If you cut off your arms and your legs, you could still live, but it's your body, because your soul still exists. So it's like, oh my God, what should I do with their body, or what, should I cremate it? It makes no difference. It's like if you cut your hair. Oh, this is your hair, was once a part of, what do you want me to do? I don't give a crap, throw it in the garbage, what do I care? But it was still a part of your body. Your soul and spirit is who you are. And I promise you, when you talk to them, they 100% hear you. They always hear you. And you feel like, are you okay? I'm okay. You're not okay, but I'm okay. And I want to say, just about for every single reading that I've ever done where somebody has lost a partner, the partner was 100% fine with the partner that's here to be with somebody else, because you'll be with me later. I say that in a love interest. Now, with your kids, with your loved ones, with your friends, you'll see them again. Trust me. You'll see them again. I promise you. You're going to see them again. And so, I just lost my train of thought for a second. Give me a moment. You know what the thing is? I have like 25 different things going on in my head. I got to see this, got to say this, got to say this, got to say that. But when... Hold on a second. I apologize. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I'm not afraid to cross over. Because my mom's there. All that yelling and screaming doesn't go on over there, because on the other side, the ego doesn't exist. There's nothing but pure unconditional love. And so it's a different understanding. And so a lot of times your loved ones will tell us what's going on in your future or what you should do. Because from where they stand, from where they sit, they have a better peripheral vision of your life, of life itself, from where they are. Because it's not that they're all of a sudden they're smarter, it's just from where they sit right now, it's a much better view. And I'm going to give you a very good example. You're at the street level. Let's say we're in New York City. You're at the street level. You can only see as far down until the road curves. You could see as far down. You could tell me all about what's going on at street level. When you pass away, you can now sit on top of the Empire State Building, and now you can see as far as the eye can see. You have a much stronger peripheral vision. And that's what it's like for them. They have a much better understanding. I'm going to share with you this one. Oh, mind you, it's not so serious. A lot of times, sometimes it is. Most of the times it's not. As far as their energy and their feelings, as far as with life itself, it's not like, oh, and you know, they were so sick for so long. Trust me, once they're disconnected, they're perfectly fine. There's these two older gentlemen, two old Italian guys. They're about 80 years old. They love the game of baseball. They made a promise with one another. Whoever dies first, you got to let the other person know if there's a baseball in heaven, because they just ate and breathed the game of baseball. So they made that promise to one another. A couple of years go by, sure enough, one of them passes away. A couple months after that, in the middle of the night, you hear, Vinny. He wakes up. Paul, is that you? Paulie, is that you? Yes, it's me. He goes, well, tell me, is there a baseball in heaven? Well, I got great news and I got bad news. He goes, all right, well, what's the great news? He goes, the great news is there's a baseball in heaven. He goes, that's fantastic. I'm so happy. You made my day. He goes, so what's the bad news? He goes, tomorrow you're pitching. So a lot of people, it's funny, I was listening to this one comedian say, you know, for all of you who don't believe in reincarnation, don't worry, you'll get it in the next lifetime. But this is not our one shot. A lot of people believe once you die, that's it, you're gone, that's it, you had your shot, that's it. Through my experiences, through Sky's experiences, we've had so much proof that life exists afterwards because we connect with spiritual loved ones on the other side on a regular basis. And they tell us what's going on, and they tell us what it's like. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful there. And to give you answers and confirmation that they're okay. Now, when I said to you before that it's okay for when you're in a love relationship and your partner passes away, it's equivalent to this. You were both on the land, all right? Say you're a bear. Both of you are bears. And every once in a while, the two bears have to go into the water to get their food. One of them passes away, and the bear is now in the water that turns into a dolphin. The dolphin is now in the sea world playing with other dolphins. And the bear is still by land. And the bear is wondering, is it okay to find another bear? Hey, boo-boo. Are you there? And it is okay. Because the two of you will reconnect at some time, but while they're in their world and you're in your world, they and God wants nothing more than anything else to make you feel happy or to be happy. And a lot of times people feel guilty. I feel guilty. I'm having a good time without them. I feel guilty about enjoying my life. Let that go. Enjoy your life. They'd rather see you happy than to be miserable. As you would want the same for them. If you're on the other side, you wouldn't want them to sit there. Oh, right, well, at least I know they love me. All right, try a little more. Go ahead, show me that. They love me. You know, but that's from an egotistic standpoint of view. But in reality, they really do. They want you to be happy. So don't worry about, I want to do what would make them happy. You know what would make them happy? By you making choices for yourself, for you to be happy. Don't worry about what you think you want me to do to make you happy? What is it that will make you happy? Don't put the responsibility on them. You have your life now. You have to carry the torch now. They were always your torch. They were always the strong one. But you want to know something? They lost their parents. They lost their loved ones, your parents. And when they lost, now it was time for them to carry the torch on your behalf. And now it's time for you to be strong for everybody else in this lifetime. And so life goes on.